I am always puzzled when I hear my colleagues from the other side speak and try to twist themselves into the pretzel that they find themselves in, trying to justify the unjustifiable. You know, I made a note because I heard the Honorable Indar talking about the social services and the social benefits. And I also heard the Honorable Member Ashni Singh speak about speak about the years of 1971 and what happened over 40 years ago and so on and so forth. And you know, it occurred to me, Mr. Speaker, that the PPP has an inability to give credit where it is due. Because those social benefits that both the Honorable Minister Vindi Prasad and the Honorable Member Mr. Indar just spoke about were schemes implemented by the then PNC government, the NIS, the social benefits. And if I recall my history correctly, they opposed it.
They voted against it.
They voted against it. The road network that you are building arteries on was built by the then PNC government. I mean, the Harbour Bridge that the Bishop of Infrastructure was holding press conferences about because, you know, routine maintenance had to happen, like if it's something big, was built by the then PNC administration. I mean, I think I know my history a little bit. The maths not so much, but my history I'm sure about. And to think that they would have the temerity to come to this house to say that in the 28 years of the PNC, nothing happened when everything, the very foundation that they're proposing to build on was set by the PNC. So you will tell that to people who don't know the history. You gotta give Jackie jacket, and God knows, all morning I sit down and I'm trying to give PPP a jacket. But the only thing I'm coming up with is the Skeldon Sugar Factory. I'm coming up with the Amila Falls project. I'm coming up with the specialty hospital. I'm coming up with the fiber optic cables. Failure upon failure upon failure. And you all have the temerity to come to this house to say that you know about building a country. And then, to boot, they operate as if the 23 years in power that they were in power never existed. So they go back to talk about the 28 years of the PNC government, forgetting that they had 23 after that. And want to talk about what we didn't do in the 5 years or who didn't do. What did you do in the 23 years? I will remind you that when the people of Guyana rose against this PPPC government in 2015, it is because you had reduced this country to a narco state, you had reduced it to being blacklisted for money laundering, you had reduced it to one of the crime havens of the Caribbean, a pariah state, to quote the Honorable Member on the other side. That is your history. You see, hindsight is always 2020. And whilst everything wasn't done perfectly, I dare you to come here to pretend to be the paragons of virtue and the ones who can develop this country, because you are not. Everything that you are building on was set by the PNC. So now that we have recalled history correctly, I will proceed to address this motion. Mr. Speaker, do I have your leave to continue? You see, because these things called facts are some pesky little things. And to hear the Honorable Vindi Prasad come here and to tell us that the non-oil segment grew when the Minister of Finance finance, or what was this called within the ministry? Look, the man who does look after finance, when the minister responsible for finance came into this house in 2023 budget and said, I regret that I must report a decline in the non-oil segment, in the non-oil sector. Last year, 2023, I will remind this honorable house, Mr. Speaker, that the Bank of, let's quote the Bank of Guyana in the year, the midterm reports, right? Sometime last year, that report recorded a decline in every sector. And I remember sitting in this honorable house, and I remember my colleague Vince Roy Jordan pointing out some things. And at the time, they didn't challenge it because they know it was the truth.